Hey everybody, taking a peek at the Bloomingdale's flagship location before we were going to head down into the 59th Street Lexington Avenue station to take another look at the most underappreciated art museum in the world, except that it took me forever to find the artwork here because this station is so confusing. That's when I realized it was time for a history episode, because this station is basically a crossover episode between two out of the three companies that would form the subway as we know it today, the IRT and the BMT. So let's start in Manhattan with the IRT. The city hires this guy, we've talked about him before, the original subway daddy, William Barclay Parsons, to be the chief engineer. We also need some money. This is where this guy comes in, August Belmont Jr. If you hear the name Belmont and think of this animal, this is my sister's horse Link, you're right. Belmont, along with his father, were responsible for the Belmont Stakes. He was also a hardcore rail fan. He would eventually buy up all the elevated lines in Manhattan as well. This is important because the trains for the elevateds and the subway would be the same size. The IRT is basically the 1 through 7 lines as we know them today. If you've been on them, you know they're smaller. Let's head to Brooklyn. Brooklyn at this time already had a pretty established rail system up top because of the trains going to Coney Island and the resorts. These train lines were eventually consolidated into the Brooklyn Rapid Transit Corporation. This name would change to BMT because the BRT would go bankrupt. One of the reasons they went bankrupt was the 1918 Malbone street wreck, the worst subway disaster in New York City history, and also would go bankrupt because of the mayor at the time, Mayor John Hylan. Now, Hylan, when he was in law school, had a job with the BRT and he got fired, so he had a vendetta. The BRT would then be reorganized into the BMT, or Brooklyn Manhattan Transit Corporation. Now, 1913, pivotal year. This is when the city signed the dual contracts. They brought both of these companies in and signed contracts so they would build even more stations and lines in the city. This is why we have that BMT line at 14th Street Union Square that we've talked about. And both of these companies separately would build lines and stations at 59th Street Lexington Avenue. The IRT line opened in 1918, the BMT in 1919. But again, they were separate. This explains why it's so confusing and also why it took so long to find this artwork, which you'll see in part 2.